Now, time for the morning watch with the Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM. Welcome to the morning watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, examining the issues associated with underinsured homes in Jamaica. And in the second watch, investigating the seeming lack of interest in individual insurance coverage. For our social media question, we ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how important to you is having a pension and a personal health or life insurance? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
All right, so today's I quote says, "The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease forever to be able to do it." This one is from J.M. Barrie, I guess Peter Pan. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Jokal.
Good morning.
Yeah. That quote, the last part of it there, you cease forever to be able to do it. Not so sure about that.
Try to decode it myself.
Yeah,
here.
the moment you doubt, you forever cease to be able to do it.
So I guess if you doubt yourself, I'm here twice defeated in the race of life.
Yeah, but
That's
the
where I'm
forever
going.
thing is what is,
Right.
kind of. Anyway.
Anywho.
Yeah, the first watch after this break.
Tiles and more tiles. It's the Totally Tile sale event at Home and Things. Enjoy massive savings on new arrivals, plus weekly flash deals you don't want to miss. Save big on A-grade floor and wall tiles. Trendy designs, colors and sizes, we've got it all. Plus other items discounted store-wide. Catch the Totally Tile sale event now on at Home and Things, Oldswap Road and Constance Ring Road. Follow us at Home and Things JA on Instagram and TikTok for our flash deals weekly. Lots of tiles, lots of styles, lots of deals.
This Emancipation Day, experience a night of powerful praise and purpose. CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica with Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Saj, John Mark Wigan, hosted by IT Ellis and Nadine Blair. Gates open 2 p.m., showtime 5 p.m. Tickets at select outlets island-wide or online at spuropen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for updates. CC Winans, More Than This concert with a call. Friday, August 1, Kings House East Lawns.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Only approximately 20% of Jamaica's residential properties are reportedly insured. And of those, an estimated 95% are underinsured. And according to the IAJ, the widespread gap leaves thousands of families and businesses exposed to financial devastation in the event of hurricanes, fires, or floods. It's hurricane season, and earthquakes, fires, and floods can happen at any time. Are we prepared for what may happen to our homes as owners? Well, to discuss this and other related matters, we have online attorney at law Gabrielle Gilpin Hudson, president of the Realtors Association of Jamaica, and she's a real estate broker. And is it Nautilus, or she'll tell us the correct pronunciation? Properties, and Joseph Cox, economist and strategic consultant, host of the Caribbean Business Review podcast. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Yes, good
Morning.
morning. Great, good to have you both with us. Well, as was stated earlier, approximately only 20% of Jamaicans' residential properties are insured, and of those, an estimated 95% are underinsured. What, in your view, are the reasons or factors influencing such realities? Beginning with you, Joseph Cox.
Well, for me, some of it is information asymmetry. People just don't know. Two, we have issues of cost. And some people are opting for what they call own insurance, which is a risky thing, because if you don't have any kind of cover, you would have to bear your full cost. So I mean, basically, to me, that's the kind of thing that would be influencing that. Because primarily, I mean, let's be clear. When you're looking at insurance, property insurance, it depends on the cost of it is a function of not only just to say you have insurance, so to speak, but it depends on the type of construction that you have. So if you have the more modern block and steel, it's rated in one way. If you have the older type homes, which are things like concrete nag, which is a mixture of the concrete and wood in the frame, those things are rated higher. And if you go to the real traditional, what I call the historic buildings, the old time what I call Watland Daub, that carries a much higher rating. You also have situations whereby persons who dependent on your carrier, obviously, the rate, the specific cover charge is much higher. So if you're along a coastal zone, if you're going for hurricane insurance, then that is rated a bit higher. So it's really, to me, it comes down to a matter of costing on one level, and two, affordability, because the other part of it is that, let's be clear, if you have a mortgage, you have to have insurance. You have to have, the property has to be insured. But as I found out when I was buying my house how many years ago, most times my insurance was higher than my actual mortgage repayment. So it is a factor. There's no question about that. But how do we treat with that? There are many ways to treat with it, but I suppose we come to those things in due course.
Yeah, right. Because I want to bring in now Gabrielle Gilpin Hudson. Your take on that? Why we're having these alarming figures? Only 20% of Jamaicans' residential properties are insured.
Yes, Dylan, I would say that I definitely agree with Joseph's take on it. I think it comes down to a lack of education about the risks of having proper insurance coverage. If you don't have it, what can happen to you, your investment, your assets. And also the cost. I think that, I've seen definitely a trend in the market where insurance prices, the premiums have been creeping up and up and up, especially, with all of these different natural disasters that have become so prolific now. And, it's definitely a topical issue to discuss, because in the event of a catastrophic event, we stand to have a lot of economic devastation, where a person's net worth, which generally tends to be in their home, can be wiped out. So, it's
Yeah.
definitely a cause for concern.
Right. So ignorance and affordability seem to be the major sticking points. Joseph Cox, how is the status of underinsured determined?
Well, I mean, it's a function of the valuation of the property. So if you have a property that is worth, I don't know, use up just an arbitrary figure, so $100,000 US dollars, and you
You
did
can't
not.
US dollars, Joseph Cox. Just make it stay in Jamaica now.
Well, listen. All right.
Let's use 30 million.
All right, yeah,
Yes,
30
yes.
million, 30 million.
Uh-huh.
And you have not updated. You can remember your market is moving, right? And you have not updated the valuation, the property valuation, and therefore align that to your insurance cover, then that is how you get into that situation. But remember, that for example, when you're looking at your valuation, the valuation in and of itself carries a cost, which is sometimes anywhere between 0.25 to 0.3% of the market value of the property. That can become quite onerous for some people, particularly those living on the margins. So it becomes
Almost a
and you're
deterrent.
supposed to, sorry.
Almost a deterrent. I mean,
No, it becomes a
0.25 to
challenge.
0.3%.
Yeah, it becomes a challenge, and particularly nowadays where you find that real estate, for example, in Jamaica here, real estate prices have jumped quite a bit,
Yes, yes.
right? So it becomes a significant issue. So it's easy to happen because the recommended thing is every 3 to 5 years that you would do the revaluation, etc. But
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, because I suspect of cost, and sometimes they just don't forget or they believe nothing will happen kind of attitude,
Yes, yes, yes.
then you have the under insurance that occurs. So it
Yeah,
creeps up on you basically.
yeah. But with the valuation matter, I mean, you might have a particular firm that is used for valuation, and they say X. Another firm would say X plus. Another say X minus. As far as you know, is there any standard that is abided by?
Well, I mean, to be honest, and Gabriel can guide me if I'm wrong here, but as far as I know, they're pretty much in that same ballpark, the 0.25 to 0.3. I suppose, dependent on who, it might have some nuance along the way, but I don't know that there is any
No,
massive
I'm talking about
variation.
no, I'm talking the value of the property. After they have
Oh,
valued it, yes, you have variance in
well,
terms of that. How is that worked out?
that one that is part of the reform that I would think we need, to be honest with you. We need to have these streamlined valuation processes. But in some markets they have the automatic valuation mechanisms that I've brought to bear. But I suppose you have to just use the best judgment. I don't know that there is a way you can second
Yes,
guess it, because it's not
and then
something that you can do. Oh, well, let me go to this valuation and then go to the next one, because then it adds up. So
yeah,
that is not
and then
viable.
some insurance companies are now insisting that you use a particular valuator or
Well, that
valuators,
too.
which is
That
another
too.
issue. You want to jump in here, Gabriel Gilpin Hudson?
Sure. Gabby is fine. Yeah, I definitely agree that valuations form a part of it. I think that what happens is persons may purchase a property. As Joseph mentioned, when you purchase a property, you're supposed to generally the mortgage company would want you to have peril insurance to protect their security. So
Yes,
you
that's
would
so
have
correct.
insurance, but just like some persons when they take out health insurance, they never do look back at the amount of coverage they have over time, and see what things like inflation and other things are doing to erode that level of coverage. So as the property value increases over time, a lot of people don't go back and revalue the property, and a lot of mortgage companies even do not always go back and revalue the
Yeah,
properties
Gabriel.
on their books.
Yeah, Gabriel, hold that
Mhm.
point. We're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Celebrate Emancipation Day at Redemption Fest, August 1, 3 to 10 p.m. at Emancipation Park. Come revel in our heritage with Jamaican food, music, dance, a craft village, and a children's village. There will be performances by Benji Myers, Dwight Richards, Carrie Sales, the Tivoli Dance Troupe, Short Bus, Oral Lawson, Kwame McPherson, the Charlestown Maroon Drummers, and the ICTD Junkuna Band. DJ Chubby Rock. MCs Bird's Eye and Christopher Johnson Johnny Daly. Admission free. Redemption Fest 2025 is brought to you by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the JCDC, and Emancipation Park.
Get your CC Winans tickets right here at Love 101, 81 Hagley Park Road. Don't miss out!
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and this is the first watch. We are examining the issues associated with underinsured homes in Jamaica. And in so doing, we have online Joseph Cox. He's an economist and a strategic consultant, host of the Caribbean Business Review podcast. And we have also attorney at law Gabrielle Gilpin Hudson. She's the president of the Realtors Association of Jamaica. She's also a real estate broker. Before the break, Gabrielle, you were responding to the variance which we may have when the properties are actually insured with different companies.
Yeah, so I was, speaking to the fact that I think what happens is, as Joseph alluded to, persons value their properties and have it set and forget it. And don't look at it as an exercise to be redone every few years. And I definitely do think that the cost for valuations have a knock-on effect on that. I don't know if there's scope for insurance companies to consider a different type of valuation for this purpose. Valuation a bank will need security, but that coupled with even have less valuers coming out every year, it makes the cost of owning property more prohibitive, and you can even look at recent incidents like the fires in the Palisades to see how it can interfere with your ability to own property and affect your market value over time. So it's definitely something that I think more education is crucial.
Yes.
To tackle, and also to look at how it is we go about valuing properties, and what can be done. And that's why, even for example, as realtors, our job is not necessarily finished when we sell our home. It's always good to advise you of your ongoing obligations and, link you up with the right professionals, including, the right insurance brokers, for example, to ensure that you're protecting the asset that you purchased.
Yes. Joseph Cox, Gabrielle has re-emphasized the importance of education. Can you walk us through the recommended process of getting homes properly insured, Joseph Cox?
I mean, the recommended process. I think Gabby outlined it. Because truthfully,
Well, from
you
stage one to the end, what first should we do? Second, that type of thing.
no, well, I don't know. You're purchasing or you own your property. Um, no insurance company they won't give you cover unless you have some sort of valuation. So you have to engage somebody who will do the valuation for you
Mhm.
and deal with the costs, etc., and then you move forward with who you're engaging in terms of the insurance company. And as you alluded to, before, some companies do insist upon particular valuators, if we put it that way,
Mhm.
because of course, in some markets there are issues of trust, etc. So it's not every single person who probably can do a valuation. Persons are willing to treat with them. So
What
I
what
mean, I
what
think it's a fairly straightforward process.
yeah, what do they look for when they are valuing properties, Joseph Cox? I mean, what are the highlights? I mean, is it everything? I mean, what about land? You mentioned about the structure in terms of
Well,
whether it's concrete or whatever. What else do they look for?
no, well, of course, you have to look at the integrity of the land. So, for example, if you are on a fault line, right, the property is a house, for example, is built upon a
On a
fault
fault
line.
line
Yeah,
in terms of
for earthquake.
earthquake.
then obviously your risk coverage is different, because on the profile will be different, because you have to look at just that. That's why I spoke to the issue of if you're near a coastline,
Yes.
you are more vulnerable, of course, to like flooding coming from a hurricane and that sort of
What
damage.
about
So
those who live in the hills?
well, actually, in the hills, the higher up you go, stronger is the wind, right? So,
So you talk
um,
about roof.
so yeah,
Fire,
sorry.
the fires, the
The
wildfires.
fires,
Hmm.
wildfires, land slippages. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
whole. The risk profile is really subjective to where you are and what are some of the underlying conditions here.
Yes. And the building itself. Well, I guess you mentioned earlier about the age and all of that, and the type of the structure
No,
of the
well, as I
building.
said, so for example, if you have a wood house, if you have a purely wood structure, right?
Higher
That
risk.
that would be a higher risk. That is a higher relative to a block and steel. That is a higher risk.
Yes.
The concrete nog, which is a mixture of
What?
concrete and the wood, that's a slightly higher risk as well. And then, of course, the old traditional, as I said before, that carries the maximum risk. And please understand that not every single insurance company will offer you coverage for some of these higher rated things. So, for example, persons with concrete nog homes sometimes catch their tail finding insurance, because some,
Yep,
some
that's a big
companies just won't
problem.
carry it. Yeah.
Gabriel, you want to come in here? But while you're coming in, Gabriel, what about the concrete vis-a-vis the zinc roof and all of that?
It definitely
What are
plays
those
out,
factors?
you
Okay.
know, structure the itself plays out, the property plays a factor. And then, as Joseph said, more and more what we're seeing is that some insurance companies simply will decline to offer you coverage, right? Sorry to draw back for the example of the Palisades, but now they're leading up to that event, a lot of insurance companies started to decline to insure houses that were in these wildfire zones because they realized that there was just too many claims coming through and it just not working for their business model. Similarly, I've even had situations here in Jamaica where insurance companies have expressed concern and are more careful in insuring properties that are right on the coastline. So they want to see what is the setback like, what's where does the high water mark fall in relation to your
Mm,
property? Is it at risk
mm,
of any flooding? And they rate it higher, so it becomes more expensive and prohibitive to own these properties. And long term, these things can affect the market value of the property because it will impact the desirability of owning some of these properties. You might have to look at self insurance, or ultimately, that your investment might be at risk if there is a disaster that causes it to be damaged.
yeah. And Gabriel, when I've always heard that there are three main factors in terms of determining where you buy or where you build, and it's location, location, location. It's possible for somebody to have a very expensive house in a inexpensive area that will affect the insurance.
Well, I think the insurance isn't so concerned about the location in terms of the marketability of the
Okay.
property, but the
Okay.
location of where that property falls in relation to different hazards that could affect the property, right? And then, of course, again, as you said, expensive house. What is the house made out of, and
Mm-hmm.
what is the replace? So in every valuation, they have your replacement cost,
Value.
which speaks to if that house was totally destroyed and you had to rebuild a comparable house, what would it cost, right?
Yes.
And so that's what they're looking at in assessing the coverage as well. So again, it comes down to a problem of we discussed education, affordability, and now also availability, because sometimes insurance companies just don't want to be available to you to insure particular types of property. So, it's definitely something to look at, especially when you consider we have more and more apartments going up. And in these
Mm,
apartment complexes in stratas, they're required to insure the entire building
mhm.
because it's
Yes,
a
yes.
shared space. So
Yeah.
so so that as well is becoming a thing where it's very expensive, and these things affect what your maintenance contributions or your monthly payments to the strata corporation are, and that kind of impact the desirability of somebody wanting to buy into that apartment complex.
Yes. Sounds like if you wanted to come in, Joseph.
No, just one simple point, and that's this. Please remember that insurance is based on probability. So if the actual thing is a certainty, then insurance there is no risk to cover because it will happen. So that's where Gary's point about what's happening in the Palisades and the fire and so on, that now became a certainty. So there is no what sort of risk would I be willing to absorb with that?
Mm,
And
mm,
if I were to take that risk, the premium that you'd pay would be probably approximate to the value of the property, which obviously wouldn't make no sense.
yeah, yeah. Gabriel, you mentioned about strata corporations, etc. How different are the concerns when standalone homes are compared with multi-home constructions?
Quite different, because at that point now, again, you're looking at a shared space. So the risk is a little bit different in terms of you have multiple people living in and using the space. And then also a big thing that comes in there is to balance the cost of the insurance and the coverage of the insurance, because stratas are required to have insurance in place unless all of the owners come together and decide that they're going to vote against it. You're
Mhm.
supposed to have the place adequately insured. Again, even strata corporations, because of the cost, can you imagine about a prohibitive cost of valuing a residential property, but can you
Mm,
imagine the cost of valuing an entire apartment building? So
mhm.
these corporations, generally tend to want to shy away from having to do any revaluation exercise, which means that they could be carrying the insurance for the entire building at a underinsured value, and in the event of an incident, persons are not going to be able to recoup the replacement cost of their particular unit, and you run the risk of multiple persons' assets being wiped out if in an
Yes,
incident in an
yes,
apartment versus a single home.
yes, yes. As we wind on our discussion, Joseph Cox, what do you say to a potential homeowners and those who are already homeowners going forward?
First of all, to the extent that you can, please investigate and try and put in place the requisite insurance cover. Read your policy very carefully because
Mm.
not sometimes there
Fine print.
the fine print is a dickon
Mm,
sometimes.
mm,
So you have to. I mean, I give you a joke. Well, not so much a joke, but I remember in 1980, was it 88, Gilbert.
yeah.
I was living in an apartment complex, and we lost the roof of the complex. And when the insurance people say, okay, well, the insurance will cover it because we thought we were covered, and just to hear that, oh, the insurance covered, what is it, two-thirds up the wall, but it didn't go to the roof.
Wow.
I just said this, these people are not serious. But I mean, what the point I make is read your policy, be aware of it, look for because we have to look at possible solutions to this thing. And for me, I'm an advocate of these automatic valuation models using the technology, using drone technology, etc. nowadays to treat with try to reduce cost and so on. But ultimately, it really comes down to a matter of can you afford it, and if you can't afford the upfront cost, can you afford the
At all.
cost if, at the end of the game if something goes wrong?
Got to leave it there. And of course, we didn't say much about, if at all, about something known as average clause. I'm not so sure if that's still around, but my goodness.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us. Have a safe and productive day.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Have
This
a
is the
great day as well.
Thank you.
Have a great
This
day.
is the Morning
Bye-bye.
Watch will return in just a moment.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:30.
You know what happens when you mix one packet of Tang? Flavor, freshness, and good vibes fill the whole big jug. It keeps giving more and more, enough to share with family and friends. Now with vitamin C, D, zinc, and fewer calories, so everyone feels great. Make Tang and turn any moment into something delicious. Tang, the flavor that keeps giving and refreshing.
We don't want to have a security force where people fear our police more than they fear gunmen. Every officer here, what they really want when they walk out in their community is that people say, I want my son to follow in your footsteps. They want respect, and they know they can't get that respect if people just fear them as though they fear criminals. So let us invest in building a security force that we can all be proud of. I want the security force that we are building to have ultimate and utmost respect for human rights. Let us make our JCF the force for good, the force to protect us. There were transgressions in the past. There are members of the force who they haven't got the memo yet, but I'm certain that the system that is in place in the JCF with the new leadership and command, that when officers violate, they will be dealt with. This is a world-class policing institution that we are building, one in which you can be proud and one that will be an example for the rest of the region.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Blessings from Mrs. Sona G, and you can listen to my new song Rescue Me right here on Love 101 FM, the family station. This song is about God always being there, for he has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his dear son. Colossians 1:13. Stand it up.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the Observer. Family devastated after teen chopped 7 times. Also in the Observer, Jamaicans encouraged to join celebrations for emancipation and independence. And in the Gleaner, 8.8 magnitude earthquake causes tsunami in Russia and Japan. Wow. And then finally in the Gleaner, improved access to Dembe this year. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we read some of the feedback from our social media question on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. How important to you is having a pension and personal health or life insurance? Leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. Soon come back.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the part, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
If you want 10,000 US dollars to spend this summer, what would you spend it on?
Something nice. I'd book our family dream vacation, theme park, or an all-inclusive.
I'd pay off my student loan and start my master's program.
I'd go shopping and get a whole new wardrobe.
They've got plans. What's yours? Use your NCB Visa credit card. Every 25,000 Jamaican dollars you spend is a chance to win 10,000 US dollars. Something nice for the summer. Promotion ends September 14. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act of Jamaica.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how important to you is having a pension and personal health or life insurance? Jokal.
All right, so we have a YouTube comment. Faith on YouTube says they are 10 plus. It is very important to have them all. A necessity. All right, thank you, Faith. Cherry in Spanish Town sent a voice note. Let's hear from her.
Morning blessings to you and all the wonderful staff of Love 101 and all those who are listening in Radio Land. 10 out of 10 for me for life insurance and pension. For none of us go and buy sickness on ourselves, and sickness don't sell at the supermarket or the shop. So we need to prepare ourselves for these things. For the pension, a lot of persons tend to take their children as their pension. Now we cannot depend on our children for our pension. We need to depend on ourselves for these things. Start saving if we don't didn't get to start at an early age because we did not train to do these things. But for middle age, when we realize these things, start saving for it. Because when you have your own money to do things and then later on you can ask for help, it is so much better.
All right, thank you so much, Cherry. Edna sent one as well. Let's hear from her quickly.
Good morning, Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. Let me first say that our greatest insurance policy is Jesus Christ. But in our daily life and our daily living here on earth, we're supposed to make provision. We should have some form of insurance, whether it be life insurance, etc. Because, it takes the burdens of your family and even yourself too. Yeah, when you die, life insurance can help your family to bury you. They don't have to dig in their own pockets. So it's good to have insurance. It's good.
All right, thank you, Edna. Thank you so much. And Marja Mundell from Clarendon said 10. They're very important. Things are not getting any easier. Having a pension to assist with your daily living after retirement is critical to supplementing the retirement plan. When you die, you don't want stress on your families. So get life insurance. Health insurance will assist you when you're alive. So yes.
Okay, good. Positive responses from our responders. Thank you all for your responses. And of course, we continue the theme of insurance into the second watch. Health insurance focuses on providing financial support for medical expenses during your lifetime, while life insurance provides a payout to your beneficiaries after your death. Unfortunately, a high percentage of Jamaicans don't seem to have any of those. Why is that so? Well, to give us further information and insight into this matter, we have joining us. Everton McFarlane, Executive Director, the Insurance Association of Jamaica. And is it only, we have also next guest on? Not as yet. Okay. Everton McFarlane, good morning to you.
Good morning, Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint.
Yeah, how you doing, man? How are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. Can you
Great.
hear me clearly?
Yes, hearing you now. Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Good.
Right. All right. What can you tell us statistically or anecdotally about the current state of affairs in Jamaica re individual insurance coverage?
Well, Let me just jump in I want to make an important clarification. In your opening, in your introductory remarks, you mentioned that life insurance um, is a contingency for when you die. But I want to put squarely on the table that life insurance is more than just a death benefit, and I think that I'm not sure how prevalent that conception is, but it's not. It
It's
can
more
be
than.
very important. It's more than that
Uh,
because
yeah.
based on the variety of options available for life insurance and the kind of policies you can get, there are a range of coverages. Coverages start very small, where you may want to take out a policy to pay clearly for funeral expenses or to leave a death benefit, but you may also opt to save through the vehicle of a life insurance policy. It's well known now that life insurance policies have investment components, where a portion of the premium is set aside and invested on your behalf by the insurance company, and you have that available. It can also serve as a supplement to pensions, right? I mean, if you save until you retire, that amount can be used to supplement your pension, either by purchasing an annuity, or you can take the surrender value or the cash value at the time and invest it if you want, and do whatever. You also have policies or components of policies that speak to critical illnesses, right? So
Mm,
it's not so even before you die, you may be confronted by a
benefit.
range of unforeseen circumstances, right? And
Okay.
insurance is protection for for those unforeseen
Thanks
circumstances.
for the clarification.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
All right.
so statistically or anecdotally,
Yes.
what's the current state of affairs? Individual
Um,
insurance coverage.
Yeah, I mean the view of the experts, and my colleagues who are on the ground in the industry, tend to suggest, and I would view this kind of an anecdotal, semi-statistical expert judgment. A lot of qualifications there, but roundabout, about 70% or so of Jamaicans may not be participating in terms of having any form of life insurance,
Only
right?
30% do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Roughly. That is what, my industry colleagues tend to work with based on their own experience and their own observations of the marketplace over years, right? So it's pretty important, both because of what it signals for the lack of a financial protection mechanism in the case of adverse circumstances, but also importantly, as I said before, because a life insurance policy, if properly, if constructed in a particular way, can be a channel for savings, it's
mm,
also representative of a gap in your savings profile that may affect the ability for you to live, comfortably, or at least with dignity as you grow old and retire.
yes. So the statistics must be a concern to your organization.
Yes, it is, and people, may want to be skeptical about that concern, saying that, well, we are in the business, or my constituents are in the business of making money off insurance, but it goes beyond that, because the absence of this kind of safety net, right, impacts all of us as a society, and it impacts us in a number of ways.
Okay.
Lack of
Well,
protection.
before you go to the ways, Everton McFarlane, we are up on a break. So
Sure.
at the other end of the break, we'll hear what you have to say in
Sure.
that regard. Listeners, will be right back.
seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace. Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
The time that Grace could move is
7:45.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and it's the second watch we are seeking to investigate the lack of interest in individual insurance coverage. And in so doing, we have online Everton McFarlane, Executive Director of the Insurance Association of Jamaica, and we're also joined by Errol Bean, former insurance agent. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Good to have you, Rev.
Just had a power cut a while ago, so I hope my lighting is good and it keeps up.
Yes. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Everton McFarlane, you were
Yeah,
making some statements here.
I will just quickly make a couple of points. So Mr. Bean can
Yeah.
jump in. Just to say that the extent of or the absence of adequate insurance coverage is a problem for all of us in the Jamaican society. As people grow older and there is insufficient savings to deploy in the retirement stage, it becomes an issue for families, it becomes an issue for the state, and can utilize a significant amount of resources. Even something as simple as organizing a funeral when someone dies can be a pretty traumatic and expensive experience for those who have to handle it, right?
Yes,
I mean, these are our loved ones. We want to take care of them with dignity in death, but it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it impacts families, it impacts the loved ones who are left behind. But also, even as you live into old age, if you don't die, it can impact you personally as an individual, right? As well as the members of your family around you who may now have to shoulder much of the burden of supporting you.
Yeah. Errol Bean, welcome again.
Thank you.
Yeah, as a former insurance agent, how would you say that personal health insurance coverage has evolved over time?
Well, I don't know how it has evolved over time. All I know is that I have seen when I go to the pharmacies, I see people who come in and are quoted high prices for drugs, and sometimes they turn away or they take a half of it. So that is an indicator to me that people are not able to afford the insurance, personal insurance cost.
Mm.
And there's a point I wanted to make, if I'd caught the beginning, the bigger picture of the low coverage and insurance coverage and pension compared to the global. I'm not an economist, but my research showed me that globally, insurance industry grew by 8.6% in 2024, which tantamount to over $557 billion euro in premium pool, which is approximately 636.2 billion US dollars. The expert, Brother McFarlane, can back me up on that. So the point is, it is not an international trend that insurance coverage is going down and people are skeptical like we are. So we have a particular problem. So whereas you didn't ask me this, it is for us to determine what are the factors why personal interest in insurance is waning, and what can be done about it.
Within the Jamaican context, is what you're
Jamaican
saying.
context.
Okay.
Yes, of course, I know. If I may just proffer one point, is that as a former insurance agent, sales agent, rep, former Mutual Life,
Mm-hmm.
I ran into people who frankly say, as your article that you shared with respect to the Observer Forum, people think it's just a death benefit and they don't want to hear about death benefit. They
Mm-hmm.
want to hear about living benefit, as one of the panelists says.
Yes.
So that is part of the skepticism away from the financial strictures that have been identified. I think that is a main point. And also, people have become cynical, thinking that insurance industry is just there to rip people off. And when you claim you have a problem and you can't get it, goes for housing, for car, and personal insurance when people die and so on. So those are some of the things I would like to throw out. Although you did ask only about the health insurance.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that, Errol, but I'm wondering though, sticking to your point and observation, in the
Yes.
Jamaican context, has anybody been able to find out why, as Jamaica? I don't know if the Caribbean, any
Yes.
research has been done in that regard, but what about Jamaica? Why we are so ambivalent in that regard?
It is. I don't have the statistics, and as I said, I'm not an economist. And the point is, people have been disillusioned. You hear people come on the radio, talk shows, and say they have been claiming so and so on their house that was been destroyed. They haven't gotten any money. People have died, and they fine prints. They refer to what is called the fine prints, the devil in the detail. Well, we prefer God in the detail actually, but they say the devil in the detail where you did not do so and so and so. Some of the policies are policies that are renewable, are that for a better term, you have to keep increasing your premium, and you so after many years of paying and believing that you are a living benefit, the cost to keep that policy to the insurance company, of course, has escalated, and therefore what you were paying say 15 years ago cannot support the policy for the death coverage, and it could continue right down till you only have 100,000 when you thought you were going to have $1 million coverage at the time when you bought it. So these are some of the experiences
It's
that
more onerous in Jamaica than elsewhere.
maybe Mr. McFarlane can say that. I'm not
Yes,
there.
now, what do you think? I to answer that before I bring in Mr. McFarlane. I just want to hear
If
from your perspective, what you think?
ask me the question again in
Is it
terms of
more onerous in Jamaica, would you say, than elsewhere in the world?
I do not know that. I don't have the
Okay.
evidence. All I know is that internationally, United States, Europe, people are buying insurance because there's a greater demand for protection and so on. So I don't know what is the specific reason
Okay.
for Jamaica,
Okay.
but it
Let
is
me
not a global trend.
let me bring in Everton McFarlane to respond to all these observations.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, I don't know of a specific study that has been done that can definitively pinpoint, the top 10 or top 5 factors why people
Mhm.
are not interested. But what I would want to conjecture, though, is that the purchase of insurance, just like any other purchase, is a choice that competes with other purchase options within someone's budget, right? Um, and so, that choice is affected by price, it's affected by income, but it's also, I think, affected by knowledge, right? How do you understand clearly what the product is delivering to you? And
Mm.
and from that perspective, a great deal of emphasis, I think, should be placed on deepening and broadening financial literacy, um, you know, with a private sector, government,
Well, from your organization as well.
right? I'm sorry?
From your organization as well, in
Yeah,
terms of
in fact, yeah, indeed,
yeah.
clearly we have one of the more stronger vested interest to do so, right?
Yes.
But it has to be a partnership. Um, and financial literacy is one key component. Bjorn, you asked a question about of is it more onerous? I just want to put out a couple of thoughts on the table. The cost of an insurance policy is a combination of the cost of the insurance risk itself, right? Or if at a particular age, what's the probability you're gonna die, etc., etc. What is it, what's your health like, and so on. I mean, that price is not the only component of the cost. There's also the cost of administering the policy, right? The insurance company has to have an infrastructure that supports the marketing, the administration, the investment of the funds in an appropriate way to ensure that benefits are delivered. Now, that cost, that administration cost, as Mr. Bean rightly pointed out, can escalate with time because of inflation and so on. In a smaller population like Jamaica compared to probably a larger jurisdiction where you can pool risk across a larger number of people, it may also be the case that the price for the insurance risk is different than you may find in a larger jurisdiction, a more advanced economy with better health, facilities and so on, simply because of the law of averages. So, but I think the most important point though is not so much whether is not so much the cost of the policy, it is how it is that persons view that purchase against other options for which they exercise some amount of discretion, right? And in another forum, I wanted to make the case that a significant portion of Jamaicans' budget, for the the middle income, low income persons are really constrained by everyday living. It's a fact of life, right? We don't want to pretend like somehow, people just have money, sitting down, not doing anything. So the fact of living consumes a significant portion of our budget. But I also tried to make the point that there may be a component, estimates vary depending on the kind of household survey that you do, but probably 10 to 15% of income may be available for more discretionary type spending, right? Which means that is where choice is much more important. Do you choose to just to, how often do you choose to do your hair? I mean, I
Yes.
want to say doing your hair is not important, but I was trying to bring it down to very,
But 70% you said of Jamaicans are not looking in that direction. We're trying to drill down. Why is that so?
and I think financial literacy has a big part to play. I mean,
Okay.
Mr. Bean alluded also to certain uneasiness about insurance in general, right? And perhaps people's experiences and may not have been what they expected, which again may be due to a gap between expectations
Okay.
and
Hearing
what,
it. Hearing
right?
Everton McFarlane. Errol Bean, you have the final word, I believe.
Okay.
Any quick suggestions, recommendations to persons who are thinking of health life insurance?
Okay.
Quickly.
Let me just say that if you don't secure your future today, you will have a problem tomorrow. I am retired, and whereas I'm not rich, I have made certain plans that have come through for me that I can live almost at the level at which I lived when I was working. Quickly, is a need for sectors like the entertainment sectors. I know one of the organizations that I'm part of have partnered with one of the insurance companies in Jamaica to provide health insurance and life insurance for entertainers. And so the recommendation I'm making is that sectors must form groups so that they can get low premiums based on what Sir McFarlane has just said, and get people to buy insurance and protect themselves both for when they are living pension and if they become ill or become sick. And finally, a lot of the persons in Jamaica are employed, are self-employed. So that whole sector who feel like they are just struggling and juggling to keep above the waters based on their own personal
Got to.
entrepreneurial small businesses. That's a big sector that is
Got
causing
to
it.
leave it there. Got to
Yes.
leave it there. Thank you
Right.
so very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Insightful, informative discussion. Have a safe and productive day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow, and we'll continue to set the stage for discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This, of course, has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning with Jukal Dyer.